Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Braless Kitchen. Today we're going to be making zuppa toscana that's out of this book right here, which is the YouTube channel's Pressure Look Cooking's new cookbook. I've made this soup a lot. Luke, how much have I made this soup? Like
probably at least 3 times a week.
No, I make it like once a week for like, I've probably made it 20 times at this point because it's my favorite and it's so good. But yeah, we're gonna try this out. Okay, so here's a little overview of the ingredients that you're gonna need. This is not following Jeffrey's ingredients to a T or anything. I kind of modified things a little bit because I'm kind of lazy and yeah. So you're gonna need a pound of hot Italian sausage and sweet Italian sausage. Luckily the Kroger, the big K over here, they have it to where it's not in links, so I don't have to take it out of the sausage links. If you find it in sausage links, you need to like remove the casing by splitting down the middle of each link and removing it so it's just the meat. So I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need a teaspoon of seasoned salt, black pepper, ground oregano, Italian seasoning, and garlic powder. I think it's 2 tablespoons of like unsalted butter. I'm not really sure because I feel like you kind of measure that kind of thing with your heart anyway. So some butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'll get to that in a minute. And then you need 5 cups of a chicken broth or a garlic broth. I'm obsessed with this Better Than Bouillon garlic broth base. You do a teaspoon per cup. So because there are 5 cups in this thing, I did 5 teaspoons of this Better Than Bouillon garlic paste. You're also gonna need a cup of sherry cooking wine, or you can use just like a dry white wine, or if you don't have that at all, you can just do another cup of the broth. So you do 6 cups of broth. So the recipe actually calls for shallots, but like I hate chopping onions of any kind. So I just get this like pre-chopped diced onion thing from the Kroger's too. As my friend Ross likes to call it, don't forget your jarlet because you're gonna need like, I don't know, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Again, something you measure with your heart. So another thing that's different is Jeffrey likes to use the small, I forgot what they're called, but they're like little small like red potatoes. But I don't know if I just get lazy or I like the russet potatoes, but I chopped up, I think this is like 4 smaller potatoes. And I like to use them because they break down really easily and it makes the soup a little more like grimy and creamy. So, and then the other thing is I like to use kale. Jeffrey's recipe calls for spinach, but I just think kale is like a little tougher. And to me, I just like the texture better and it holds up a little better in the soup. For me, not everyone likes that, but I like to use kale. So after you cook with these things, and everything's pressure cooked, you come back and you do a cup of heavy cream or half and half. And then Jeffrey likes to use those Boursin soft cheese wheels, which the Kroger doesn't currently have. So I've just been using like 3/4, maybe less, of the little Philadelphia cream cheese, chive and onion, which I have some left over from the last time I made it. So I'm gonna use the rest of this and then use some of this. So yeah, right now what I'm going to do is I'm actually off camera just going to cook this and drain it. The way that Jeffrey does it is he actually sautés the onions and the garlic first and then adds this in, but I like to drain the fat out of it because it gets a little heavy on the fat to me if I don't. So I'm gonna do that really quick and come back and show you how to make the rest of it. Oh, and one thing I want to note very quickly is whenever you're using an Instant Pot, always use like a wooden ladle, kind of like this, because you always want to make sure that you're deglazing the bottom of the pan whenever you're cooking. And you don't want to use something that's going to like scratch up the bottom or whatever. So I always use this little wooden spatula. Okay, so quick little update on just the cooking here. So I've obviously been breaking it up, and like as it's going to stick a little bit, as you can see, but like as it's been sauteing, the fats are releasing, and so that's going to help deglaze the bottom of the pan. So yeah, just keep mixing it up. Basically, I turned this on the saute function, and then I did it on normal because I feel like if I go on more, it just like scorches it a little too much. So I'm not going to cook this like till it's like done. I'm going to get it to where like there's hardly any pink, and then drain it because it is going to cook some in the Instant Pot, and I want to be able to have the meat sizzle in that sherry wine that I showed you earlier, because it's, oh my god, it's so good. It's my favorite thing. So as you can see, I have now drained the sausage. It's not like totally cooked through, but it's just so the pink is like just starting to fade. As you can see, I have one of these lovely strainers that I'm pretty sure every kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s, their parents had one of these. This thing's been around a long time. So now I've come back down and I've put it back on saute, and I moved it up to the high setting or the more setting. And I've added in my olive oil and butter. And once this is melted, I'm gonna put in my onion, and very shortly after that, I'll put in the garlic. Okay, so I've got the onion in here sizzling, simmering. I put more onion in here than is necessary, just because I really like onion a lot. Before I put the garlic in, now that the juices are starting to release, I'm just gonna deglaze the bottom of the pan. The reason you want to do that is because when this comes to pressure, you don't want anything to burn on the bottom or anything like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to do with a soup because there's so much liquid in it, but it's just a good idea. You just want to make sure you deglaze it. So I'm going to let this simmer for about like 3 or 4 minutes, just because there's a lot of onion in here, and I like for it to get pretty caramelized. And then I'm going to put in my garlic. And now I've added in 2 heaping tablespoons probably of garlic, because I have absolutely no self-control when it comes to things like garlic and onion, because they just make everything in the world taste amazing. Maybe not in the whole world, but in this situation for sure. So yeah, I'm just gonna saute that for like another minute or so, and then it's gonna be time for me to add back in this almost fully cooked ground sausage. And just so you know, as soon as I add this back in, I'm going to immediately add in my cooking sherry. Alright. Okay, so now I've added in the ground sausage, and I'm just going to quickly combine the onion and garlic in there. So sorry, this is really shaky, and I've never done this before, so I'm literally holding this with my hand and cooking with my other hand. So I've added that in. And then I'm going to take my cup of cooking sherry that I've literally like spilled all over the floor on its transfer over here. And yeah, I'm going to press that down a bit and let that just kind of simmer in there for just like literally just a second. So I actually added like a shot or 2 more of the cooking sherry just because like I love it. And then now I'm going to add in the 5 cups of the broth. And I just like to note how I've mastered to pour this without it like going all over the back, like the champion that I am. So that's gonna go in. Then my seasonings are gonna go in. Bloop. I'm gonna stir that around just so everything is nice and combined. Get in there, you leash. Okay. Now I'm going to add in all these potatoes that are just so delicately balancing on this toaster right now. So this is probably more potatoes than the recipe calls for, but like, you know, that's my life, that's my business, and I just really love potatoes. I love to make this soup really thick. So I add that in there, and just kind of like, you don't have to mix them per se, just kind of make sure that they're as underneath the broth and all of that as possible. And then next, I'm gonna add in the final ingredient before we pressure cook, which is like almost a full bag of kale. And it's gonna go like all the way to the top, like you'll see in just a second. So now I have filled my kale all the way, almost all the way up to the top. I could have probably put more if I had it. And so now I'm gonna add on my lid and make sure that it's locked. And then come up here and make sure this is turned all the way into sealing position. So now I'm gonna come down here and hit the keep warm or cancel button. And then I'm gonna go to my pressure cook button, hit that. And then I'm gonna make sure it's on the more and high setting. And I'm gonna go to 10 minutes. And like, that's all I have to do. It's gonna take a second to make sure that, like, you know, I'm not joking around or kidding, and it's going to, it'll come on in just a second. Okay, so now it's gonna start to pressurize, and what's gonna happen is, I don't know, I'm really paranoid now. I always like double check everything. But this little tab here is going to eventually pop up, and that means that it's gonna be fully pressurized, and then the 10 minutes will start counting down. You can actually hear it's starting to like come to pressure, so you'll see that there's some steam escaping, and in just a second you're gonna see this little tab here go boop. Let's see if we can wait for it. It's gonna be like that scene in Singing in the Rain where the main character pops out of a cake. Like, that's the drama that's gonna be. I'm just like, can't wait for you to see it. Come through, sister, come through. Okay, so it's fully pressurized now. That wasn't nearly as dramatic as I made it out to be, but whatever. And in just a second, it's gonna go from on to counting down from 10. All right, there it goes. So now it's gonna count down from 10 minutes, and then once it hits 0, it's gonna be time for us to do a quick release up here. Okay, so the cooking time is now over. So now I can come over here and do a quick release. So the steam's gonna obviously be very, very hot, so just be careful. And once it's completely depressurized, you'll see the pin is gonna drop. Okay, so the pin just dropped, so that means that it is now safe to open the soup. So here I go. Voila. So as you can see, the kale like really shrunk down in there. Now I've got a fresh ladle. I'm gonna go in and just kind of mix everything up. As you can see, the potatoes are fully cooked. And what's gonna happen is once I start adding the other creamy ingredients, they're really gonna start to break apart, and it's gonna be this like wonderful mushy kind of, mushy is not a good word, but this wonderful kind of consistency. So now I'm going to add in 1 cup, of a heavy cream, or you can use half and half. Shablammy. And like 5-ish ounces of my cream cheese, since I don't have boursin. It's a lovely sound. And yeah, you just mix that up as much as possible until it's nice and combined. And once this is all combined, I'm gonna put it in a serving dish and show you the final results. Here's the big reveal. Yes, oh my gosh, it's so good. It turned out so well. Again, I've made this soup probably 20 times at this point, but it's so creamy and delicious and comforting, and it just has like all the flavors that I could ever want. I'm such a savory person, and so I just love this soup. And I also just want to say that this really is the soup that taught me how to use the Instant Pot. If you ever watch Pressure Look Cooking's channel, you'll notice that the style that I filmed this in was very similar to Jeffrey's, because I love his videos and I've watched so many of them. So if you try this recipe, please let me know. Again, this is in his new book called, oh gosh, where did it go? Oh, there it is. This is in his new book called Step by Step Instant Pot Cookbook. And I think it's on page 54. He calls it the sausage and spinach soup, but this is obviously spinach, not spinach, it's kale. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and go out and get this book. You won't regret it. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on Braless Kitchen. I hope you enjoy the soup. If you like what you're seeing here, I'm going to try to start posting more things. Just follow me at Comfy Confidence down below. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the soup. Please be very safe when you're using the Instant Pot. If you're not quite sure what you're doing, there's plenty of tutorials on here, and just go back through and watch this video a couple of times if you need to get the hang of it, or ask me any questions. I'm not an expert, but I love using this device. I think it's amazing. It feeds so many people, which is something I'm very passionate about. I always want to make sure that everyone around me has had plenty to eat. So again, thanks so much. There's space for